Okay, in this video I'm going to be talking through some sparring sessions with a larger, stronger, more powerful opponent. And he is an expert in Wing Chun and I'm using what I call snake style Kung Fu, but it's not really that. I'm trying to develop a freedom of movement to use my body like a snake. And although we're getting faster and more powerful, we're still doing only very friendly sparring. We're using loose fists so that we don't hurt each other. And as you see here, as he punches me in the face, I can pull my face away and use that movement to generate a strike over the top to his head. But this is still not real combat. We are still just practicing a skill of movement, trying to feel the flow and respond to our partner.
Hi there, welcome to Body Efficiency Training, and this training is really all about Qi, the mysterious life force energy. What is it and how do we get it? Well, we get it through body dynamics, or specifically the correct alignment of our body. Our correct skeletal alignment is required to gain efficiency. If our body is lined up properly, our joints are connected together properly, the Qi can flow better. It's like electricity. There needs to be a circuit in order for the electricity to flow, and it's the same for Qi. Our body needs to be connected in the correct circuit so that the energy can flow, the Qi can flow. Now, in this video, we're going to be doing some more pushing hands sparring, moving up to some quite high power and speed. And I'm sparring with a superior opponent. Now, what do we do if we're fighting someone bigger and stronger than us? Now, if I'm fighting someone bigger and stronger that has no particular skill, well, that's fine, because I have a skill and I have my training behind me. So fighting someone bigger and stronger with no skill is not so much a problem. But what if I'm fighting someone bigger and stronger with great skill? Now we're evenly matched in skill, but he is bigger and stronger than me. So what do? Well, my only real chance is I can't fight him strength to strength. My only real chance is with structure. I have to get my structure right, because my body structure is the only thing that is going to give me any strength against a stronger opponent. And the second thing I need to get is my relaxation right. I need to be able to relax and flow so that I can move fast. And I've got to move very fast because he's taller as well, he has longer reach, and he's also very fast. So I've got to be extremely fast. Now the problem is when you're actually fighting or sparring, it's very high pressure and your mind is distracted by that. You get caught in fear, especially if you feel like you are losing. Everyone who does martial arts understands this. Real combat is difficult. Real combat is difficult. This is not real combat. We're still just playing and practicing. This is play fighting. But real combat is extremely high pressure and you get overwhelmed with fear. Now, Mike Tyson famously said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So this is true. You can train all the techniques you want, but the moment you get punched in the face, they're all out of the window and you're just struggling for your life. So this is why we've got to do this training slowly and carefully. We've got to gradually increase the pressure because we need to maintain a control of our center when we fight. We need to not become involved with emotion. We need to still remain calm so that we can remain relaxed. And we also need to know how to, if we can be relaxed, then we can lock into the correct structure when required. So let's have a look at this fight. I'm fighting another good friend of mine, and he has 20 odd years of very high level Wing Chun training and teaching. So he's a Wing Chun expert. So anyway, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this sparring match, and I'll talk our way through it as we go along.
Okay, so we're starting off nice and slowly. As you can see, we're just trying to get the feeling of each other's power, each other's energy. And there's a certain amount of force here. I'm holding a structure, he's holding a structure. There's slightly different structures. You can see mine is a bit more forward, his is a bit more square. But he's using what he's trained in Wing Chun. I'm using something a bit closer to Tai Chi. But you can see I'm also pulsing forwards and backwards. I'm trying to generate a forward movement, trying to feel the pressure as I'm going forward and backwards. And you can see we're already getting to quite fast, quite powerful movements. He is much taller, well, a couple of inches taller. He's got longer reach, his arms are stronger, and his whole body is actually very strong, much stronger. And he has structure. He has his own structure, which makes him very powerful. So that's a big challenge for me as a smaller person. All I have is my structure and my flow, my movement. Now this is still not real combat, this is still just pushing hands, we're just feeling and playing. We're trying to practice a skill. And this should not be confused with real combat. Real combat, this will seem pointless to a fighter, because what is the point of this? We're just moving around randomly. But what we're doing is training our subconscious mind. Our body and our mind have got to be one. This has all got to be instinctive. And of course we're training slowly and carefully now, because training a subconscious mind is not easy. We have to train slowly and carefully into our body. And here you can see an interesting movement. Here's a strike. Now we have a double strike. We both hit at the same time, but you can see his reach is longer. So really that strike would have been his. That would have been the end of me. But you can see why we have to do this slowly and carefully. We're using loose hands so that we don't hurt each other. And we're imagining this is combat. Every move could be for real, but it is not for real. And why is this useful for combat? Because ultimately, when our subconscious mind and our body are combined, and all these movements are purely instinctive, the moment of combat is outside our conscious mind. If we actually have to fight, there's no time to think about it. You've just got to act. You've just got to move. It's got to be locked into your body, how to move, how to flow. You've got to be able to respond instantly without thinking. And this is very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do. And it's not the same as competitive fighting either. Competitive fighting is, again, something slightly different. In competitive fighting, you're not really trying to kill each other, you're trying to just win the fight. In real combat it is ultimate. Real combat could be the very death of you. So at that point it's still a slightly different mentality. There must be pure instinct operational inside you. Your mind, body and spirit have got to be combined, and you've got to be able to survive. So how can you do that? Your body and your instinct has to take over. And there again you can see his longer reach. I couldn't reach even though I have a full extension. So I have a very difficult challenge here. Now you can see us next to each other. He's good, maybe 3-4 inches taller than me. So now I do have legs. We're not doing much in kicking, but in real combat against a taller opponent I would need to use my legs more, because the legs would give me a longer reach against his arms. But of course I've got to be very careful that he doesn't catch my legs and do anything with those either. But we're not doing that here. Here it's just pushing hands. So he's practicing his Wing Chun and I'm practicing what I call snake style Kung Fu. But it's not really that. It could be Tai Chi, it could be Kung Fu, it could be any martial art. It's just a freedom of movement, trying to flow, trying to unify my body together and flow as a single unit. I need to generate force in my arms that come from my whole body structure, not just my arms. So this is very hard to see, but if you watch carefully you can see the alignment in the structure. You can see there's a certain amount of force between us. See, we're pushing and pulling, so there is a strength going on. And it's just like wrestling. If you watch two expert wrestlers, there's not much happening. They're just sort of hugging each other on the ground, because both of them are using great force and have great skill, and they're waiting for an opportunity. And it's the same with pushing hands here. Not much happens, but there's a lot of force going on, and we're both waiting for an opportunity, and we both got to be very careful and take that opportunity in a fraction of a second when it comes. So it's still not actual fighting, okay? It's still not actual fighting, but we're getting closer to it here because we're moving faster and he is much stronger, much more powerful, and a strike from him could end me. So I've got to be particularly aware of that and particularly cautious. And of course I've got to battle with fear. I've got to not be afraid. It's very tricky. When you get struck, you immediately, your body and your instinct takes over, and what happens is fear takes over. So we're also battling with that. We're battling our internal fear. So we're fighting each other, but the actual process of pushing hands, the real one, is not fighting the opponent. You're actually fighting yourself. You're fighting your body's instincts to run away. You're fighting your body's instincts to just do whatever it thinks it can do. You're trying to teach your body not to do that, to remain calm and do the best movement it could possibly do under great stress. And so we're fighting ourselves. We're fighting our own inner demons. We're not fighting each other. And there you saw a bit of force against force. So now you can see he's pushing me very strong, but I've got quite good structure at this moment, so I'm not going anywhere, or very little movement. But again, this is not combat. We're just practicing the moment here, pushing against each other, giving each other a chance to feel. There he tried to trip, but again my leg was locked well, so I didn't move. And then we continue. So it's still very, very friendly. We're assisting each other to improve each other's skill. So it's fighting, but it's a friendly fighting, and not to be confused with real combat. Again, this is practicing a particular skill, a skill of using our body as a single unit and flowing with our body as a single unit. And we're training our subconscious mind to feel inside our body. So again, in real combat you might think, well, what's the point of that? Well, real combat, you have only a moment. You have only a moment, and in that moment all you've got is really your instinct. And that instinct comes from your subconscious mind and years of training of your subconscious mind. And again, you could argue that, okay, we're practicing only training softly and carefully, so when a real fight happens you've got to move fast and with power, but we also train that. We will also practice speed and power, and I haven't really done any videos on that yet, so there will be more videos coming on speed and power, and those things we practice separately because they're very dangerous. We don't want to injure each other. I am not a fighter. I don't see myself as a fighter at all. I don't regard myself as a fighter. See, I don't want to risk any injury. I don't want to risk injury in my joints. I don't want to get struck in the face. I don't want to get injuries to my body. It's not worth injuring yourself. If you injure yourself, then you're out. You're not able to train until you heal. It's better to keep on training. And you train by training slowly and carefully. But in your mind, you're training internally to know that this could be a real fight. And both of us know that. We both know that we're practicing for a real fight, but this is not it. This is not a real fight. And so now you can see again, we're back to pushing hands forward and backwards. Now I'm trying to generate a pulsing motion. I'm trying to pulse a little bit forward and a little bit back to try and judge his structure. Now, it's very interestingly, because he's taller and stronger, he can survive with a more standing leg structure because of his body weight and his own personal skill. And in order to combat that, I'm using 1 foot forward to give me a better chance against him because he is taller and stronger than me. And you can see here the flow going on. And as I'm rolling my hands, trying to roll and move like a snake, trying to find a way in. But again, he responds very well, so it's very difficult to find a way in. And there you can see slow motion. I'm using my structure to lock him a bit so that he can't move forward. I roll the elbow to block up and block down. So when you watch this, what you're really watching is movement and skill. Don't think of this as combat. This is body dynamics and flow. We're trying to work out the best way we can use our body. And this is only one aspect of combat, is hands. We're only using hands, and we're using intermediate speed. So this is still not boxing. Once you go to high speed, you're really moving towards boxing. Boxing is high-speed hand practice, and this is pushing hands, trapping hands, so this has got to be medium speed. This is more like standing grappling. Now, if you think of a fight, there are really 3 stages to a fight. There you can see me throwing a few soft strikes, so it's getting a bit closer to boxing, so I'm just trying to feel I can find a way in. Okay, so boxing is moving up to higher speed, but when you get to close range where you're actually standing grappling, now we're into intermediate speed. And then, of course, from standing grappling, the next stage will be ground grappling. So you have boxing moving to standing grappling, and if that doesn't work, then you end up dropping down to the ground and you're wrestling. So there are 3 stages to the fight. One is distance, where you're striking. Second is here, where you're at intermediate distance, we're standing grappling or pushing hands. And then the third stage is where you're actually wrestling. You've gone down to the ground and now you're wrestling. So these are the 3 stages to any fight. Now ideally you finish the fight with the first move. There was a punch to the face, so that could well have been the very end of the fight. 1 second and it's all over. But we don't end at that point. We're doing the intermediate stage of the fight. So let's say we survived the first strike and now we're standing grappling. Now this is the bit that we're practicing. We're practicing standing grappling, and to do that we're feeling each other's structure. So I've got to feel what he is doing. It's not enough time to see it, you have to feel it, and that feeling comes through the hands and the arms. But whilst feeling the hands and the arms, we've also got to feel our whole body structure. I've got to feel the spine and move accordingly. So there he pulled me around, I've got to skip round. There he tried to reach over the top, but I rolled my hand to prevent his strike coming in. And again, here I go, trying to find a way in. I'm doing very slowly, so we're giving each other a chance. There I'm pulsing, bouncing forward and backwards, trying to generate a spring, so any one of those strikes could be a spring-loaded strike coming in. But I've got to be careful because he's got a much longer reach, and he's very, very strong. So I don't want to walk into one of his strikes because that would be the end of me. And there you see, again, he had a nice chop there to the side of my neck. Now I grabbed his leg to try and move towards grappling, but we're not taking each other down to the ground. We're not going to wrestling. We're only doing standing grappling. This is only one aspect of a fight. So those of you who know combat and know MMA and octagon fighting, this is not it. This is only one aspect of combat. And again, there's the pulsing. I'm trying to feel a flow from my body, pulsing from the back leg through my spine. So any of these could throw out a strike. But I've got to wait for my opportunity. I'm also testing him, letting him respond to my bounce and see what he does. Now here he does a very interesting thing here. I'm pushing him now. Now, although he's doing Wing Chun, what he's doing now I would call snake style Kung Fu. He's rolling his spine, adjusting his position against my force to try and slip away and find his way in. So that was a very nice bit of spinal rolling. You see he's using the rib cage. He's in a standing structure, but you can see he's using one hip to the front, the other hip to the front. And I'm just giving him force on his body, trying to find a way in and feel what he's doing. And he's trying to slip away from that force and find his way in. And of course I've got to be careful. At the same time I'm trying not to let his arms come in towards me, because of course he's going to want to bring his arms into strike at any time. So again, he's using structure, I'm using structure, but together with that we're using snake-like flow. We're rolling our body like a snake. The spine has got to be fluid, because there's got to be a fluidity in our body. And this is very important, and it's very difficult to learn. And you can't just learn that by going flat out and trying to fight in a ring. This is very slow, careful practice. And there's more benefits to this than just combat. This is about unifying your body together into a single unit. And ultimately, if you do that, you're unifying your body so that the chi can flow. And the end game of this practice, really, is we're both using chi. We're trying to feel our energy and feel the energy of our opponent. And we're trying to find an opportunity to use our chi or use the other opponent's chi against them. So we're really, as I said, we're training our own internal structure and our own flow and our own chi. And so this is still extremely friendly fighting. It's not really fighting. But a real fight, at the moment of a real fight, ultimately if you have built up a good chi, you've built up a good body structure and a good body flow, and you have done some speed and power training. And a real fight, it will be very, very explosive. You will have to build up your chi and explode your chi out as fast as possible in whatever moves come to you and direct them straight at your opponent. So this is still, now again you can see force against force, structure against structure. So his strike came in, I just deflected his strike enough with my elbow. So again, same thing, lifted my elbow up to deflect his strike. So what you're watching here is just skill. A skill in arms and structure. There's a little bit of legs. You can see that we're doing a bit of tripping to practice each other's structure. There he tripped me, but I was able to release that leg and hold enough of my structure with the back leg so I didn't fall. And again now here, a little bit faster. We're both using a bit more speed, trying to get a moment in. But it's tricky to see, because when you're using force and speed, it does get more dangerous. There's a risk of accident, and as I said, neither of us want to risk injury. So for you hardcore fighters out there, we're not doing that. This is not real fighting. We're being very, very careful. This is extremely friendly fighting. It's simply practicing a skill. And what is that skill? Well, that skill is trying to find our own body alignment and trying to find a flow through our body in such a way that it responds to a flow coming towards us. And the tricky bit is because we're under attack, because someone is trying to impose themselves upon us, we get it's very intimidating, and especially when the opponent is bigger and faster, and it's quite easy for them to reach you and strike you. You get scared. Your body instinctively gets scared, and what happens when you get scared? Well, your body freezes up. Your body locks up. And in fighting, you really mustn't lock up. You're in big trouble. It's like a deer in the headlights. The headlights come and the deer freezes. Well, what happens? Well, the car just hits it. You can't freeze. You've got to still be fluid. You've got to be free. You've got to be able to move. You've got to combat your own fear. So the battle is not with our opponent. The battle is within our own mind, is within our own emotions. I'm trying to stay calm, stay relaxed, stay fluid, and not get locked in by fear or pain. The same thing happens the moment you're struck and your pain hits you. Well, there's a certain amount of adrenaline in a fight. Adrenaline will be running through your body, so you won't feel pain quite as much as you normally would. And the pain, usually that after the fight, you'll realise the injuries you've picked up. But again, I don't class myself as a fighter. I've only ever done one real competition fighting. And that was when I was much, much younger. It was very, very difficult, and it doesn't interest me that much. I'm not bothered with actual fighting for competition to prove myself. I'm actually just trying to develop my own internal skill, my own internal control of my body, and my own internal chi. And this pushing hands is a very good way of doing that. Again, you can think of it as dancing. And Bruce Lee famously practiced ballroom dancing. So why did he do that? There's nothing to do with combat. Sure, he maybe enjoyed it, but there's some great benefits to combat in dancing, especially partner dancing and a spontaneous partner dancing. You have to move your partner and they have to feel what you're doing to them to move them to the next position. So in dancing with a partner, especially spontaneous dancing like ballroom maybe ballroom dancing is a bit choreographed, but let's say salsa dancing, where it's spontaneous dancing, it's very similar to this. You're feeling the energy of your partner. But of course in dancing there's no fear, there's no pressure. Well, of course there's a fear of performance, but in combat there is an element of fear because injuries can happen. But there's a great benefit in dancing and dancing with a partner to practice your energy and your feeling of flow and responding to your partner's energy. So again, you can think of this as martial dancing with a partner. So again, those combat exponents who don't take this seriously, I'm not saying this is fighting. Please don't think I'm saying this is fighting. This is simply practicing of a skill, and the skill is movement and flow. It's still a long way from here to actual combat, but if you've practiced this long enough and you've also practiced real combat tactics, again, you need to know some techniques to fight. And in fact, we'll do some videos on combat tactics in time, but actual combat tactics are quite simple. You only need a few strikes and a few movements to be able to fight. And again, Bruce Lee famously said, if you really want to fight, 2 years of training in boxing and wrestling is all you need. 2 years of boxing and wrestling and you will be able to beat a traditional martial artist who's done 10 or 20 years training. Why? Why would just 2 years of boxing and wrestling beat a traditional martial artist of 20 years? Well, because the traditional martial artist has been training body structure. They have been training movements, they've been training power and alignment and strength in their body, but they have not been practicing freestyle combat. See, actual combat is very, very simple. It's striking and it's wrestling. And in actual fighting, you just need a lot of experience of responding in that simple fashion to an opponent. In traditional martial arts, is more than that. combat, and this is where there's big confusion between, traditional martial arts forms. What's the point of that? You're never going to use those moves in a fight. Well, that's correct. That martial art form is not combat, and it should not be thought of as combat. It's simply an exercise. You see, a boxer will do push-ups. A boxer will do push-ups, they will do sit-ups. But they're not thinking that push-ups and sit-ups have got anything to do with fighting. But that's an exercise they do. Push-ups is going to help your arms to throw out punches. Now, we will also be doing push-ups. I'm going to be talking about that in time. But the way we do push-ups, or I'm doing push-ups in body efficiency, is a whole body connection. So we're trying to throw out push-ups using body structure. So that is even more efficient for combat. But I'm under no illusion that doing push-ups is going to help you fight. So that a boxer knows that. Push-ups and sit-ups won't help you fight, but they're going to assist your body dynamics in a fight. It's the same with traditional martial arts forms. All a traditional form is an exercise in using your body. It is not meant to be combat and should not be thought of as combat. So a traditional martial artist and a Tai Chi exponent, or even what I call here snake style, what I'm calling snake style, but it's not really any style, so don't get confused. I'm just doing my own thing. This is not really combat, it's just practicing towards combat. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.